Dimitria!
Lambda.
Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I need to give you some background, what my take on Spider-Man is, my thoughts on the adaptation before it. So I grew up with the Sam Raimi trilogy. That was definitely my age to see it at. And when I watched them again, I found I still love the first one. I think Tobey Maguire was fan-frickin-tastic. I absolutely love that movie. And then for some reason, I'm not too sure, I don't really remember, but 2 and 3 were bad. They just kind of sucked. Then I got to the Amazing Spider-Man movies, and then the first one, again, fan-frickin-tastic. I thought it addressed absolutely everything. I loved the way it looked, I loved the action, I loved the characters, I loved the emotional scenes. Andrew Garfield was excellent. And then you have Spider-Man Homecoming, which was kind of lame. And then you get to this one. I was not looking forward to seeing this. I felt like, okay, we've gotten so many Spider-Man adaptations. I think we're kind of done. To me, it's like Batman. It's like, you know, we just hit perfect. We got it perfect already. So why not make something new? This is the same thing with Spider-Man. I think he's gotten incredible treatment over the years, whether it be by a show or by a movie. The problems with this film lies in representing Spider-Man, representing the spirit. What ends up being the problem of all of these types of movies. We had the Lego movie, which came out, and everyone was saying this is our generation's sense of humor. Anything that sort of has that kind of vibe, when people look at movies like the Lego movie, when they look at the Lego Batman movie, when they look at Ralph Breaks the Internet, when they look at Deadpool 1 and 2, this is my generation's humor. And I think they're very right. I think it's a lot of addressing cliches and sort of being self-aware and pointing out kind of the obvious thing. Like when Spider-Man is jumping off the building, he's ready to jump, and then it just cuts back to him going down the stairs. That's very like a 2010s thing. It's a very millennial joke. And what really sucks out the cleverness of these types of movies is when it gets to the more serious side, as in the narrative, as in the character development. Whenever these movies get on the joke, sometimes it works. I think with the Lego Batman movie, it really worked. And then in this one, there's so many laughs. And I'll argue Ralph Breaks the Internet. But whenever they need to sit down and talk and sort of go through their arc, good luck if you're gonna find something original, something that is not a cliche. And for these types of movies to constantly point out these cliches, it's like you're making these mistakes and you're not commenting on them, and we're supposed to legitimately take them seriously. That is what really sat with me when I kind of got home, and then, you know, the next day when I was sort of thinking about it, I'm like, yeah, like, what do these people, these different Spider-Men, do they have any sense of chemistry? Was there any scene where I go, okay, that was a real moment? They did not feel alive. But I will argue the animation is ridiculously alive. The colors especially, I'll say that. And I think the way people move, especially, and the way people hit things, I'll give it that. People have their own sense of the way they move. But all these people are just punchlines. Except for the female, obviously, who is just a boring no-nonsense. And you have the sort of 40-year-old Spider-Man who kind of is supposed to mentor the new guy. I'm like, there's just nothing here. So I think that is the plus of the movie, though, that the animation is stellar, and I love the way these colors look and the way they show them off. It was really weird at first. It's kind of like an adjusting thing. Like if you don't watch a lot of foreign films and then you sort of get used to the subtitles sort of thing, it almost feels like they purposefully left out frames because it kind of looks a little laggy. I sort of got into it. It kind of really reminded me of the early 2000s CG show that they did. And then the comedy is excellent. Whenever someone gets in physical hurt, It's a laughing riot. I was probably the loudest laugher in the theater. But then when you have to see the main Spider-Man go through his arc and get that revelation, it's like I'm watching from afar. It's a weird thing to say. You're probably thinking like, what does that mean? I mean, that's what a movie is. No, a movie's supposed to make you think. You're not watching a screen. You're not just sitting down for 2 hours. I was totally not involved in it. It's just something responsibilities, something happens, and then all of a sudden he is just this grand hero and he has this incredible courage. I did really like the first half. I was kind of hesitant to, like, I wanted to go to the washroom. I was like, oh shit, this movie is just so like briskly paced. You really don't want to miss what's happening. When it gets to a certain point, I find this especially once you get to meeting the other Spider-Man. Basically, when they go to Aunt May's house, that's where things start not adding up emotionally. I don't get out of this going, you know, I want to be like a hero. I want to be like any of these people. I just felt like nobody seemed to learn too much outside of it being necessary for a standard arc, because every character needs an arc somehow, especially in a movie that constantly pokes fun at itself. So why don't we just put in the cliches we're supposed to be making fun of and then go, no, this is actually what we're supposed to be taking seriously. So I was looking a little bit more for more character out of these Spider-Man. I think, you know, what is the noir Spider-Man's personality? States the obvious, breaks the fourth wall, played by Nicolas Cage. It seems to assume that we've seen all of the other Spider-Man movies leading up to this, and it seems like they're like, okay, we've already earned the audience's trust in this person, in their inner motivations and the spirit of it, but it's like, it's any standard sequel. It's like you need to capture the spirit again. You can't just run off from another movie's steam. That's just not how it works. Should you go see it? This is gonna sound really weird. If you watch a lot of YouTube, you're not gonna get a whole lot out of this. That's the problem when I saw the Lego movie, especially when I saw Deadpool fucking 2, I'm like, you realize like YouTubers do this shit all the time. Friggin' 10 years ago, this would have been, wow, I can't believe they did this. So everything in these types of movies are just so standard in terms of breaking the fourth wall and pointing out these cliches. It's like, okay, then what? What other funny thing are you gonna point out? What other satirical stuff do you want to address? There's nothing here. It's like we're just giving you the bare minimum. And sure, it's like a different type of animation, but I'm sure it's not the first. And the story is definitely paling compared to the animation. I'd say the reason to see this movie is for the look, for the atmosphere, and the colors. I think there are some shots that are gorgeously composed, especially whenever it's foggy, whenever there's shots of the city, or whenever there's rubble. It just looks amazing. And I think you should really, you know, if you're gonna see this, definitely pay attention to that, because it really is so involving. And there's definitely a few laughs, I'll give it that. But if you're going in for characters, heroes, and villains, it's very stock. I would be careful of that. And if you're a big time Spider-Man fan, like I am, I don't know what you're gonna think of this. Thank you so much for watching. Who are we? Who are you? I'll see you next time.